Hello and welcome to another episode of our Brothers Creed podcast, where we talk about motivation, experiences, and we explore the world around us. We are the Thomas Brothers, and I'm Jared.
And I'm Ethan. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the CREDO of Tenacity. Tenacity is a word that doesn't get used very much. It's kind of an interesting word, but we're going to dive into it. We're going to learn how it applies to our own personal creeds, what we've learned about it, and maybe some of the things that we are going to do to be more tenacious in our lives. So this is going to be a good one.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Most valuable commodity I know of is information.
And that, my friends, is called integrity. That's called courage. Now that's the stuff leaders should be made of.
Either you're somebody or you're nobody.
You're not the devil. You're practice.
When you said tenacious like that, I just couldn't help but think of Tenacious D.
Tenacious D. Dude, you know what? They were in Charlotte like probably 3 months ago.
Oh, really?
And somebody had offered me a couple tickets
Hmm.
to go see them. And I was like, man, but I had something going on that night. And I wasn't able to go, but I was like, dude, if I could got those tickets, Jared and I would have
Yeah, man, that'd be cool.
Would've
I was
had fun.
my boys they saw a Mario movie, obviously, right? Hey, which, by the way, the Mario movie is our the Mario movie review that we did is our most listened to episode this basically this whole year. 526 downloads. Yeah.
Nice.
Episode 136. So, pretty good. Followed by episode 105, Exploring the Samurai Code, 7 Virtues of Bushido.
Ooh, Bushido.
So that was a good one. Followed by Child Prodigy, episode
that's a good
106. So people are going back through the catalog, man. They're like, hey, these guys are dope, and they're going back.
Oh man, gotta go hit some of these other episodes.
That's right. So,
Cool.
So yeah, but I thought I would share that. But what you been up to recently?
You know what really grinds my gears,
What's that?
dude? All right, so we got a
Smelly people in the workplace?
no, yeah, that's a whole different topic. No, dude, I have this car, right? It is a Chevy Traverse that we have. We've had it for about 8 years. And it's been a great car for us, but then
It wasn't.
Well, no, about I don't know, 8 months ago or so, the check engine light came on and it started not running quite right, and it was just kind of felt like it was kind of losing power and stuff. It still would drive and everything, but we were in the market for a new car anyway, so we actually bought a new car. Well, not a brand new car, a new car to us. And we've been driving that one. My wife's been driving that one. It's actually a newer Traverse, a 2019 Traverse versus the other one, which is a 2012. And it's great. We love it. But that's the car that my wife drives around. And so I've been driving around this older one, and it's a 2012, and it's got 187,000 miles on it, which is quite a bit of miles.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't get it registered because it has the freaking check engine light on. In North Carolina, you have emissions you have to pass emissions to get your inspection to go and re-register the vehicle. Yeah. And so I was like, well, I could figure this out. And so I worked on it. I did a couple different things to it, and the check engine light didn't go off. And so, I had pulled the codes and everything, and the code is actually a catalytic converter code. And so I actually took it to a shop, and I had them go through it, and they said, "Oh, you need a brand new catalytic converter, you need new O2 sensors, and one other thing." And I was like, "And that's going to make the code turn off, right?" And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, that's your problem. That's your problem." And so he's going to charge me like $1,400 to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually went, I like to consider myself, I dabble, I tinker. And so I was like, hey, I'm gonna go online. I'm gonna buy an OEM um catalytic
Oh,
converter
you didn't
from
just go saw it off from under a car in a parking lot somewhere?
yeah, for like from a reputable site like that had thousands of reviews, right? So I did that, and I bought it for several $100s. And then I went out and I bought the two sensors, and I replaced it myself. And everything was good. I watched a bunch of videos on it, the exact same car and how to do it. And I had the tools that I had, and I did it and replaced it. Okay. Well, do you think that made the check engine light go off?
No way.
No.
Oh, dude.
Well, it did. It did for about 95 miles, and then the freaking thing came back on.
Oh, gosh.
And then I was like, what the heck? So I went through and kind of like hours of research more, and they're like, oh, well, maybe the issue is actually a lot of times if you have like a misfire and a bad cylinder, you got bad spark plugs, then it will cause you to have like an improper mixture of gas and air in the intake, and then that will throw off your O2 sensors and make it look like you have a bad catalytic converter. I was like, okay, all right, well,
Change all the spark plugs?
I pulled all the spark plugs and replaced all the spark plugs. Actually, I did that with my oldest son, and he freaking loved it.
Oh, yeah?
He had so much fun, and it was actually really cool. And I got to like explain to him the whole time about this is what this does, and this is what that does, and
Nice.
and let him get his fingers dirty. And so he's got smaller hands than I do, so it was actually kind of helpful.
You don't need one of those little like reacher pins that grabs the spark plugs. You just have him like a 9-year-old stick their little hand down there and twist it.
Yeah. So replaced all that, and then after that, it actually did feel like it was driving better. But it
Code still was there.
I cleared the codes, and it drove for about another 60 miles, and then the freaking check engine light came on again. Same catalytic converter code. And I'm like, what the heck? And so then I go through and I find out that, oh, well, sometimes if you have an evap leak in your system, then that can cause a similar issue, and it can cause a false code. And so I went through and I did all these tests on the evap system and found out that my purge valve was not properly was not working right. So I went to freaking O'Reilly's and bought a purge valve, and I replaced the purge valve.
What is the evap system? Is that
So yeah, so basically it's and don't freaking quote me on this because I don't know what I'm talking about, but there is vapor that is not completely burned off whenever in the ignition.
okay?
And so some of that vapor needs somewhere to escape, and so passes kind of through the purge valve of the evap system, which actually goes through, and it has actually a return back to the gas tank.
Okay.
And so if you have a leak in that, then it can cause things to mess up, I guess, and the car not to run properly.
Interesting.
Because it's getting improper mixture. So replace the purge valve, and then that seemed like the car was running a little bit better, but then, freaking check engine light came back on, or it was still on, didn't go off. And so I found there's a different part of the evap system that has a little I can't even remember what it's called. It's called like a CV valve or CP valve or something like that. That I looked up in this YouTube, several different YouTube videos, and people were saying, "Oh, on this year of Traverse, it's the holes in this valve are too small, and they get clogged up, and it'll make your engine run poorly, and it'll throw all different kinds of codes." And so there was this fix where you take that valve out and you drill out some of the holes to make them a little bit bigger, and then put it back in, and I did that, and it was kind of dirty, right? It was clogged up a little bit, but do you think that fixed it?
No.
Nope. And I'm just like, dude, I'm seriously about to put 10 pounds of tannerite in this thing and just freaking drive it out to a field and blow it up.
Just pull a Walter White and just put a rag in the gas can and blow the thing up. Well, I sent you that video, man, about all those traverses that on that TikTok video about all those traverses that their engines are garbage.
Yeah, but that was for people that had like 80,000 miles or 100.
Man, maybe it just finally caught up to you.
90,000 miles.
Maybe it just finally caught up to you.
Yeah, maybe. So
But
I don't know.
should-
I think
Maybe what about selling that car, then sell your other car, then sell 2 cars and buy 1 car.
yeah, which is probably what I'll do. But I hate selling a car with a check engine light on because it's like you're never going to get as much. And if I have a car that works, all I need to get to is from A to B, which is work, which is 6 miles away.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just the the cheapskate in me. It's like, you have something that works, well, kind of works. And
So the question
it's
is,
just
how long you been
hard to
riding?
pull the trigger.
How long you been riding dirty from the cops without expired registration?
It's been about 11 months. Hey, I've got
11 months.
It's got insurance on it.
Oh gosh, man, dude, you're pushing your luck, man.
I know,
Pushing it.
But and actually it was like 4 months ago. My wife got in a little fender bender type thing with another car, and she was driving that car.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever the cops came, and there was a little bit of scrape on our car, maybe a little bit of fender damage to the other car. But it was my wife. She was there, and the cop took the license and registration, everything, to write the report. And when he gave her the registration back, he was like, "Ma'am, you need to get that fixed."
Oh, geez, yeah.
And she was like, "Oh yeah, I know. We're trying to figure out this check engine light thing." And he was like, "Yeah, I get it, but just get it fixed." And I was like, "I'm freaking trying, man,
Dude.
But at this point, it's almost like it's not out of necessity. It is almost out of I will not be defeated by this freaking check engine light.
Tenacity.
Yeah, I've got this tenacity. I've got this like resolve in me that's like I am not going to let this car beat me. And so there's 2 more things that I'm gonna try. It might be the intake manifold gasket is cracked, and so I'm gonna check that, and then a couple other things. And if it doesn't work out, then I'm just gonna I'm gonna give up the ghost and I'm gonna move on. But
yeah, well, sometimes you just gotta. Sometimes
that was a really long story to say that I'm stubborn.
Sometimes things like that, I get down the road and I'm like, I should have just paid the $1,400. I would have saved myself hundreds of hours of research and work.
If I paid the guy $1,400 and then he resets the check engine light and it's going to come back on in 90 miles, and then I'm gonna call him and say, "Hey, the check engine light's back on." He's gonna say, "Oh, well, sometimes that's not what it is. Sometimes it's something else," and then he's gonna charge me another $1,400. And then he's going to do all the things that I've been doing until he finds the problem.
Yeah, it's true.
Except for he's going to charge me 100 times more than it's cost me. And I feel like I've actually learned a ton through the process, which has kind of been fun.
Yeah.
I like to tinker.
Yeah.
Frustrating and fun at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. Well, hey.
But
glad you're making progress on it, and hopefully it's maybe before too long you'll have a brand new car.
Yeah. Seriously, we're freaking replace every piece of that thing. No, it just makes me want to go out and I was watching this thing on TikTok today, and it was this guy, and he was standing there and he was like, this is a brand new 2024 Dodge Ram 3500 Cummins diesel. This is $130,000 truck or whatever he said.
Yeah.
And then he goes, the only reason why I can afford this is because I franchised this certain business. And he's like, you could franchise this business too. And the first year of franchising this business, you could afford this truck too. He's like, in the first year of franchising this business, I made $100,000. I was like, dude, You can afford You can afford the payment on $130,000 truck on $100,000 salary. I was like, dude, I could barely afford groceries.
Well, he probably doesn't have any kids. He doesn't have any. He's probably renting a place. He's eating beans for dinner, and he's like, "Oh, I got this cool truck," so he can impress his dates. And then he brings it back to his shanty house.
He probably just went into some random parking lot, saw a nice truck, and just took a video, made a video in front of it. I don't believe anything I see online. But.
Oh no, dude. No, totally. Yeah, I also have a failed project recently that I am ashamed of. I'm embarrassed. Every time I see it, I'm embarrassed. Just like I tried to do this part of my back patio. So out of my back door, I wanted to extend the patio a little bit to make a little bit of a grill area. I'm going to put in a bar, just a little countertop outside, so we can, put some appetizers on there and just maybe have some folks over. And maybe during the summertime, we'd like to let the kids play we have like a little slide thing that the kids will play in. So it'd be nice to have a little bit of extra room on the patio. So I'm like, you know what? I keep seeing all this stuff on social on TikTok. I've done some research on YouTube and stuff about this dry pour concrete method.
Oh,
so,
yeah?
Dry pour is different than a wet pour, as you can imagine. A wet pour is like traditional. You mix it with the concrete with the water, right, in a mixer or in a bucket, and then you put it down. It takes a lot of work, especially if you're doing a kind of a big area like a patio, right? So,
Are you just doing the left side of the door when you go out the door?
Yeah, just the left side.
Okay.
Kind of, where I'd already mapped it out, right?
Yeah.
With that little retaining wall.
Where you put that fill dirt there.
Yeah, so I put the fill dirt in. I figured, okay, I want like a 3-inch slab, 4-inch slab. About a 4-inch slab is what I was gaming for. And then I went and bought 30 80-pound bags of concrete. Carried them to the back. I take 2 trips back and forth to Lowe's because I was like, dude, my truck is loaded down. Luckily, I live close. But took them all to the backyard, undid them all. And this was the kind that had like the gravel in it, And so, and then I kind of laid it out. But the thing is that it was difficult. Like I was trying to I bought the stuff to do the edges, all nice, kind of like a seam, The thing is that the edges, trying to edge powder concrete. It's just
I was gonna say,
trying to edge.
I didn't know
flour.
you could do edges in seams on dry pours.
It's just like trying to do powder. You're basically just packing a little bit of it down. And so I was trying to do that, and it was like really hard because you had these like rock pieces that were all in it, right? There's like all these little pieces of gravel, and then you're supposed to like smooth it over with a rolling, like a paint roller, right? So I tried to do that, but it just really ended up picking up all the powder, leaving all these rocks exposed on top. So I got it to a spot where I thought it was kind of acceptable. And I've been working, mind you, I started like Saturday morning at like 9:00, and I've been doing this all day. So I put the thing in, and I got it to where I thought the surface was pretty decent, and you have to do a mist on it first to kind of create like a crust on top, and then you mist it, let it dry for an hour, mist it, let it dry for an hour, and then you kind of water it more heavily to kind of soak it through so it gets hard. And so I misted it, and then I came back, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, it's still, a little bit powdery. And then I misted it again. Mind you, this time it's like 5, 6 o'clock at night. It's getting dark. So I had misted it, and then I waited an hour or so, but it's in the shade, and it's at night, so it's not really drying right. And so I went out, and this was like 2-3 hours later after I had done my first initial mist, and I'm like, okay, now I'm going to just water a little bit more. And so I water it, and then like it's dark. I have kind of an outside light on. I can kind of see. And then like I've noticed that like I'm kind of looking at it, and I noticed like some of the rocks are like moving. And I'm like, oh shoot. I'm freaking spraying this thing and like ruining the surface. And so like some of the
more mist.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I freaking blew it. And I was like cursing myself because I was like, the droplets from like the water, because I just turned it to like a shower head type of a stream instead of a mist. And it kind of like got off the powder from the top, that kind of crust layer that I was trying to build. And then it was kind of exposed all these like little rocks, all these pebbles and stuff. So at the end of the day, it dried, and looks like it's just, there's like all these little exposed rocks that are chipping off and all this kind of stuff. And the nice, neat edges that I had edged, there's other rocks and stuff that had fallen into it from when I was spraying it, and it just looks like garbage. It looks like an amateur did it, which I am an amateur.
I mean, that's by the definition.
And so I feel dumb because I'm just like, man, I should take more time. And it's like, this is freaking concrete. It's not like you can do it twice. And so I'm thinking about just going to buying like an outdoor carpet from like Lowe's or something, just putting it over it. I mean, it's solid. You can stand on it, right?
Yeah.
But maybe I'll just cover it with like a carpet or something like that, and that'll be the end of the day.
I wonder if there's any like you could do
like a resurfacer or something like that.
Yeah, like you can do like this very thin type quick set stuff, and just do like almost like a scalp over the top. It's like a self-leveling thin set.
Yeah, I've looked at that, but I've heard that those don't stay very well.
Yeah,
and I don't know. Whenever I'm filling up water at the refrigerator, I just look out on my patio and I'm just like, oh. So, anyway, that's the challenge that I'm working through right now. I just gotta buy a carpet, then I'll be like, oh, that looks nice.
Yeah. Oh man, this is nice and firm under this carpet.
Yeah. Hey, it is firm. It is firm. I will say that. So, that's good. At least,
Well,
let's get into tenacity.
You could say you tried.
I tried.
Yeah, tenacity.
I was tenacious about it, and even though I didn't like the outcome, I was still tenacious about it. I was like, hey, you know what? I can do this myself. I don't have to pay someone $3,000 to come do this. I can do it myself for $400. For like, no, it wasn't $400. It was like, each bag of concrete. It was like $250, which is a pretty good day coming out of Lowe's for $250 for a project. It's a pretty good day.
That's true. That's true. Maybe next time, get a wheelbarrow.
I had a wheelbarrow.
Tried it. No.
Oh, you're talking about mixing it in a wheelbarrow.
I've mixed it in a wheelbarrow before. Tried to do a wet pour. I don't know if that would have made it easier or harder. I don't know.
Harder probably, but it would have come out better at the end.
Maybe.
But
so yeah. So I was just say tenacity. I mean, for me, like I said at the beginning, it's kind of a weird word that I don't think is used a whole lot. But from a definition standpoint, it refers to the quality or attribute of being persistent, determined, and unyielding in the face of challenges, obstacles, and difficulties. So I always like to say, to look up like in a thesaurus, okay, this specific word, what are some other words that kind of mean the same thing? And it helps me understand a little bit more. So some of those words were persistent, determination, perseverance, resilience, endurance, resolve, grit, stamina, courage, fortitude, toughness, and diligence.
Nice.
So, yeah, I was like, man, tenacity is kind of a cool word. It can mean a lot of different things.
So, you want me to tell you? Yeah, absolutely. You want me to tell you my favorite story of tenacity?
Yes.
So, have you ever heard of someone called Hannibal?
Not Hannibal Lecter.
Not Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah. Like elephant's Hannibal.
Yeah. So, Hannibal of Carthage. So, I love the story of Hannibal. So, he was brave guy. He was an outstanding leader, and his men were like super loyal to him. He assembled an army of 90,000 foot soldiers, cavalry of 12,000 horses and men, right? And then he had 37 war elephants. And at this time, during the Second Punic War against Rome, the Carthaginians, which he was a military commander for Carthage, Hannibal Barca, Barca, he was going to march to Rome to take Rome. So this is the infamous crossing of the Alps, and it's basically one of the most remarkable historical examples of tenacity, you could say, and strategic brilliance as well. So the year is 218 BC, and Hannibal has decided to take the unconventional route of crossing the Alps to surprise the Romans and wage war on their home territory. So the Romans had kind of blocked off all of the passageways along the coast, so he's like, all right, I'm taking the mountains. They will never see me coming through the mountains. So the journey was fraught with challenges, harsh weather, difficult terrain, the constant threat of attack, right? They actually did get attacked by a couple local tribes. And the logistics of moving this type of an army over the mountain range was just incredible, including elephants through this snowy, rugged terrain. One of the famous quotes that is an example of tenacity to me, coming from Hannibal, is he said, "We will either find a way or make one." So I love that. It's kind of like Ethan's like, I will either fix my car or I will just smash the light so that it doesn't come on.
Break the check engine lights behind the dash.
I will take the bulb out of the check engine light.
It kind of reminds me. It kind of reminds me of remember the Winter War, the Finns against the Russians, and they said what was the quote? It said they are so many and we are so few. No, it's like they are so many and we are so few. Where will we find space to? Oh no, it says there are so many and our country is so small. Where will we find space to bury them all?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And then it goes.
Yeah, that's tenacity.
Yeah, that's right. So a little bit more on the story of Hannibal. So despite all these obstacles, he displayed this extraordinary tenacity and leadership to do all this. And he adapted his strategy to navigate the ever-changing conditions that came before him in this war, and also by traversing the Alps. And that really inspired his troops to press on. And actually, when they came out of the Alps, they had lost quite a few troops. In fact, I think that he lost most of his elephants. I think he came out with, it was less than 10 elephants. There's a lot of rumor, or not rumor, but this story has been, obviously it was a long time ago, right? 218 BC. So it's become almost a legend. So there is some historical writings about this, but it's kind of just like, we think it was this. But they say that he probably came out of the Alps with very few elephants. And
I'm sure an elephant could feed a lot of people.
Yeah, and pretty hard to traverse the mountains. I just think about the scene from, Lord of the Rings when they're like hiking through the snow, and they're just like, we can't go through this pass, and he's just like, we're gonna have to go through the mountain, the mines of Moria, So I always think of the difficulty of passing through the mountain pass, and so anyway, he's a powerful example of that tenacity, and he caught the Romans off guard, man, and his persistence and his boldness really was a military achievement lauded through the decades and through the centuries, millennia, since 218 BC. We're still talking about this bold man. So, pretty cool.
Did he end up defeating the Romans, or didn't they end up beating him? Didn't he end up losing?
It was kind of a turning point in the Second Punic War, and he did lose a lot, and he did it. He lost. He won a battle or two, but then he did lose some battles. So it was, he kind of head back home after that. I think not using the Alps as a route, but it was tenacious to say the least, regardless of whether he won or got whooped.
Yeah, well, no, for sure. I mean, completely agree. I actually, my story of tenacity or being tenacious also was a war story. But have you ever heard of the group called the Rough Riders?
Oh, those are the guys that go around with the BB guns and shoot people in the eye?
No, those are the Red Riders.
Oh. Okay, that's a different group.
Yeah, different group. So the Rough Riders were they were a group of men that was put together and led by Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And basically it was a volunteer cavalry regiment led by, at the time, Colonel Theodore Roosevelt, not yet President Theodore Roosevelt. But they played a massive role in the Battle of San Juan Hill during the Spanish-American War that was fought in Cuba. And so the Americans were assisting the Cubans in their liberation against the Spanish, and the United States was involved in that as well. So things were not going well. And so Teddy Roosevelt decided to gather a big old group of good old boys and go down to Cuba and help in the war efforts.
What year is this?
Voluntarily. This is 1898.
Oh, late 1800s, the end of the cowboy era.
Yep. So on July 1st, 1898, American forces, including the Rough Riders, so there were some American forces as well, they faced in the entrenched Spanish position on Kettle Hill and San Juan Hill in Cuba. So it's basically these big hills that the Spanish had, and they were entrenched hardcore at the tops of these hills. And if you've ever watched Star Wars, right, Obi-Wan Kenobi had the high ground.
Of course.
And we all know what happens when
you underestimate my power.
Yeah, I've got the high ground, right? You lose your arms and you lose your legs.
And you get burnt to a crisp.
Yeah. So it was definitely something that was a daunting task to take these hills, but they were like pivotal points in the war. And so the Rough Riders, consisting of a diverse mix of cowboys, ranchers, college athletes, and other volunteers, were very eager to prove themselves. So the American forces started to advance, and the Rough Riders found themselves really they ascending the San Juan Hill specifically, which was well fortified and entrenched with Spanish soldiers. So they came up against rifle fire coming down the hill, machine gun fire coming down the hill. The terrain itself was very rugged, super thick vegetation. Barbed wire. They had barbed wire all around the hill as well, obstructing the Rough Riders' path up this hill. So despite all these odds, Colonel Roosevelt was tenacious and fortified, and he actually charged the hill and led the rally on horseback. And he encouraged his men, and he spurred his men on, and he was kind of just the personal example of leadership and tenacity in the face of what was, a very dangerous situation. And I think back, some of these people being president and stuff like that. Can you imagine? I'm just going to say any president in general. Not even current president or past president, but just having like that type of experience and fighting for your country would just build like a love and a loyalty, especially in these days that, I just feel like we don't have today.
No, definitely absent in many ways.
But I digress, right? So they're charging up this hill, and they end up getting to about 3/4 to the top of the hill, and it turns to hand-to-hand combat. The battle was fierce. There was no more, I'm sure there was shooting, but it was close quarters contact.
Juan on Juan, if you will.
Yeah, mano y mano. Juan on American, if you will. And so eventually they got to the crest of the hill. They overtook the Rough Riders along with some of the American units. They
even the college athletes?
And even the college athletes and them cowboys ended up taking the actual Cowboys, not like Dallas Cowboys football players. They took the hill. They were victorious, and that was a huge turning point in that war. So I just think that not only Teddy Roosevelt's tenacity, but the tenacity of the men that were led by him, and the desire and a voluntary basis to make a change and to do something, I think was an example of grit, stamina, fortitude, toughness, right? Endurance, resilience, all those thesaurus words,
Oh,
the
yeah.
synonyms that we went through at the beginning. Definitely, it was a story that whenever I thought tenacity, I instantly looked this one up.
I like that one. Tenacity is such a good one, even in the face of possible defeat or discouragement. These guys carried on. And oftentimes, you have to have this like irrational desire to just prove yourself, or even beyond capability. You look at some of these guys talk about SEAL teams and the buds, Hell Week and all this kind of stuff, and they say that oftentimes the guys that get through aren't the big strong guys. It's the guys that have the mental fortitude to just suffer through it. They have the tenacity to suffer through it, the pain and suffering, even though they may not be the strongest. And so it's such a important characteristic that is important to be reminded of. I'm reminded of it on vacation when my youngest son wakes up at 4:30 in the morning and stays up until 9 o'clock at night. And I'm like, man, the tenacity of that little one to just be awake.
The tenacity it takes not to strangle.
Yeah. So
Maybe that's more of reserve.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, obviously, I love this attribute for or credo for your personal creed. Apply it in combination with other things. Be tenacious about being humble. Be tenacious about being diligent. Be tenacious about being steadfast and being thoughtful, or any of the other things that we've talked about. These credos play in with each other, and the more you mix and match, the better you're going to be off. So with that, thank you for joining us today, and let's build our creed together.
All right, let's do it.